Hi, Tony from All the Remote Things here again. Fantastic to have you. Listen, have you ever wondered about what it would be like to be a digital nomad? What it would be like to wander the world, but be able to work wherever you want to, wherever the hell you want to? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you're listening to this, though, let me remind you, don't forget to like and subscribe. Go to our Remote AF community, remoteaf.co, click the community button, join all of us talking about remote, hybrid, and digital nomads is one of those. In speaking of that, I've got Chris Cerra with me. How are you today?
I'm really good, Tony. I'm great. How are you doing?
Great, fantastic to have you on. Chris, let's talk a little bit about who you are and where you come from so that everybody knows who we've got on here today.
Yeah, sure. Well, you gave everybody my name. I'm Chris. Hello, everyone. And originally, I'm from the UK. If the accent doesn't give it away. But I don't really spend a lot of time here. For the last nearly 6 years. So for over 5 years, I've basically been working and traveling from different places all around the world. So in that time, I think I've done five continents. So I've worked from five continents over 5 years, and it started a long time long time ago, and it started with moving around very quickly, moving around like 1 week at a time, 2 weeks at a time, but it very quickly uh, became something that was a little bit stressful, living out of a suitcase like that, and also trying to be productive and meet work obligations. Not fun. So a natural evolution of that was to really slow things down, and to travel at a pace of like 1 or 2 months at a time. Um, yeah, kind of get a little bit more embedded in a place, actually unpack, get some work done, and also enjoy the place. So that's been how I've lived for nearly 5 years now, 2 or 3 months at a time, enjoying good food, good weather, good people, all the rest of it.
Oh, I'm envious. Okay, that means I need to leave now. No. So the reason I wanted to get you on, you took all of that, and and what you did was you said, well, that wasn't good enough, and you've extrapolated that into a business, right? So you've or an organizational construct which is called remote base, and that's why I got you on today. So I want to talk to you about how this thing works. Let's talk about what remote base is first, and then a little bit more deeper. We'll dig into how you got there. But what does remote base do?
So, in a sentence, remote base finds, curates, and shares top accommodation deals for long stay digital nomads. That's in a sentence. Slight expansion on that is we always look for the best deals, and we share those with you in an email newsletter. So there's over 3,000 members now who are subscribed. The rate climbs every day, and it's great to watch. But yeah, twice a month we send out an email that has a snapshot of some really cool deals, for places where you can go and stay at significant discounts, like 40, 50, 60, 70% discount if you book for a month or longer. Um, and these are places where slightly different to slightly different to the vacation accommodation, like these are places where you have a washing machine because you need to do laundry, and you have Wi-Fi, and you have things like air conditioning or heating, depending on location and season. But yeah, they're places that you can actually work from, and be productive in.
So I take it the difference or the differential between this and we'll just mention the competitors very quickly, but those other booking kind of stay organizations, they're more geared around a holiday, right? What you're actually saying is that this is about being able to live for a certain period of time. So you would have Wi-Fi and you'd have all the accoutrements that you would normally have, and you can unpack yourself. Is that the difference between that and the booking kind of organizations?
Yeah, so I think probably like one important factor of what we do is like we I don't really see what we do as being competitive to the likes of Airbnb, booking, stuff like that. Essentially, we're curating all of their inventory and servicing only the really niche specific stuff that's useful for the traveling remote worker or the digital nomad, and serving that. So the deals that we find, they're on these platforms. Some of them are available, to book directly, but yeah, most of them are picked from the platforms that people already know and trust and love. And yeah, we kind of filter out the best stuff so that you don't have to waste your time figuring out all of that. You can just save a bunch of time and save a bunch of money as well.
Yeah, you said you've got quite an uptake, and it's getting bigger, and I would imagine, the lightning rod of the pandemic probably has pushed that dial to the right hand side, given that people have decided that they want to work from home, or they want to work in a different way, and they've discovered they can work digitally wherever they go. How much of a change did that make to your business model?
A really significant change, very significant. So before the pandemic, I was working full time. So I had a day job, a company that was based in London in the UK. But it was a very progressive, kind of flexible organization in terms of the hierarchical structure, the working arrangements, and they were very happy for people to work remotely whenever they liked, wherever they liked. It was great. It was really great. Um, and so that was kind of how that was because of that. Like that's really what enabled me to explore this way of life pre-pandemic. And what's happened since is, yeah, now a lot of people can do it now, and there's this huge explosion. When I started the newsletter, it was really not a business. It was just a kind of project. It was something that I did for fun on top of the day job that I was working. Um, and so the rate of uptake for our members, while I was in project phase, I call it like project phase and business phase.
Yeah,
Um, project phase was like it was a trickle, it wasn't a huge uptake. There were pockets of the internet, these small online communities or small physical places where the places that were popular for digital nomads. Um, and that was where I would find members and interact with people and get people to sign up and stuff like that. And it was all really just like for the community. It was it was a case of the way that I actually started the business was realizing first for myself that these deals, these crazy deals with 50, 60% off even existed. That was that was the first thing. And then I started to create like in Airbnb, there's a wish list feature. So you can like add properties to a wish list. And I was like, these would be cool places to stay at. I'll add them to a wish list. That got so big that I was like, I don't think I can stay in all these places now. There's too many places on the list. And so I decided, look, maybe other people would like to benefit from these offers. Um, and it was just really through talking in like Slack groups or online communities where people were hanging out and saying, look, all you guys work remotely. If you're based in Canada, here's this cool place in the US that you might want to visit, or okay, hey, you could go to Mexico, or oh, you're in Italy. Like, did you know that you can go visit Spain and stay a month here, and this place looks great and it's half price. Um, it was that kind of stuff, and that is really how it evolved into the newsletter. So it was all very kind of community focused, project based, on top of my day job. It wasn't monetized. It was just for fun. Um, and then the pandemic happened, um, and that was the point at which like the whole world really started to talk about remote work and the impact of remote work and global mobility and this kind of like next phase of revolution. We had the industrial revolution and people flocked to cities where the work was, and now there's this other thing of like the knowledge worker, and them being able to work from anywhere. So as all of that took off, I kind of decided, look, maybe there's an opportunity here to flip a switch, turn on some monetization opportunities with the newsletter, and leave my day job. So that's what I did. I quit the day job and doubled down on all things remote work, and that's what's led to today. So now we have like a premium tier for the newsletter where people can pay it's an annual subscription, and it's basically lets you set preferences, and you can say like, I'm Tony, I want to see deals in Southeast Asia. Like I'm with my family, so I need 3 bedrooms, and this is my budget. And it lets you go down to that kind of level. And then we basically just fire out alerts at you every time we find something that matches these preferences. And the free newsletter is completely intact, so that remains free forever, and it keeps going. But really, it's just all about like as remote work has accelerated, and the ability and like the pace at which people adopt remote work. um, I want to try and accelerate the rate at which I can share these deals, and like uh, yeah, push deals on people and let them force them to go out there and explore the world and enjoy it, because it was life changing for me, and I just think that other people should have the opportunity to do it. Some people don't realize yet that it's even possible still, you know. It's like a
Yeah,
slow burn to nomadism. But yeah.
that's brilliant. Let's talk a little bit about digital nomad. So here's the thing. Now, one of the things when I was looking to get you on the cast, and it piqued my interest, Chris. So one, obviously, remote agility framework or remote AF, we look at help making work, remote work and hybrid work and etc. And we talk about a lot when I'm talking to organizations about digitality, right? Digitality, the word, actually comes from a book by Nicholas Napront, where he talks about the art of living and working in a digital environment. And the first step of that was really, okay, we've all gone home and now we can work remote. And then the second step of that was, okay, well, we're coming out the other side now. We can work from remote from anywhere, and we can work with anybody at any place at any time. And then we'll talk about the other bit where there's the hybrid bit where people are trying to sort of work the one foot in either part. But the step that was interesting is I see what you're doing is the next step to that, which people haven't thought about is that actually the art of working and living in a digital environment is you can actually physically pick yourself up and go there for a month and still be able to do that same job that you were doing before, as long as they will allow you to work digitally. So it's a really interesting term, digital nomad. Did you come up with that, or was that something that you heard?
This is super interesting, because I feel like I really wish that I could remember the first time I ever heard the phrase. I wish I could, but I can't. And for whatever, I don't know why I can't, but uh, I imagine that it was I imagine that I was hit with it from different angles, or
Mm.
you know within a short period of time. I remember that the very flexible progressive organization that I was working my day job at, one of my colleagues there was actually on a so we had this policy, right? The policy was, it was something very like it sounded good. It was like, you can work from anywhere at any time without telling anyone, as long as it doesn't like interrupt business. Basically, it was very, go and do whatever you like. And this is like 2015. This is like,
Yeah, one or
when I
two
think back,
ago.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. Now saying that, it seems like, oh yeah, no, everyone's doing this. But back then I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I don't have to commute anymore. Um, and so yeah, I was at this job. I had a colleague, and I was still commuting. Right, I was still like quite early in career. I used the flexibility to work from home a few days a week at the start, but to be honest, like, all I knew at that point was commuting. So you just continue doing the thing that you know how to do, right? You don't question it. But I had this colleague who was on he was on the inaugural program that was run by a company called Remote Year. So they did this thing, which is like, for anybody who doesn't, if you're listening and you don't know, this is like a 12-month program where they take a cohort of like 50 people, and you pay them monthly, and they just arrange everything for you so that you can travel around the world together and work. So I think you pay them their fee, and they arrange flights, accommodation, transfers, co-working space, some events so you can network as a group and stuff. And he was like, I remember my first day at this job and being like, okay, like, a lot of the team are here. Jeff is in this country. Um, and then it was like, 1 month after that, I was like, Jeff's now in a different country, and so on and so on. And I got talking to this guy, and I'm like, this sounds amazing. And I think maybe that might have been my first. Maybe I didn't hear the term for the first time, but this was my first real. Like, this was the first time I got my eyes on the lifestyle
Mm-hmm.
and thought, oh, okay, this is feasible. This is a feasible way for people to live. Um, and I'm working at the same place. Like, this is something that I can do. So then the mission became about kind of slowly transitioning my partner out of her job into a job that was remote friendly, because um, she had a job that was location dependent, and you know I love her very much, so I wasn't going to take off without her. And yeah, we managed to make that transition, and at that point it was like, cool, let's go. Travel was always something that we loved doing, and part of the reason that we came together. So to be able to basically make some, like, working is quite a big thing in people's lives, right? And so to make adjustments to that to allow us to live a life that we were more aligned to and more attracted to, that was a really big deal. So that was how we set off on it. And I think those first few months doing it, um, that I think that's like the intense phase of like digital nomad everything. That was where we started to, you get into these echo chambers online, right? Where you can't start to see the same phrases and the same people, and the same um yeah, like the same narrative being told about stuff. So it's all about, with digital nomads, a lot of the stuff that you see online is about like freedom and financial independence and all of this stuff. And there is a lot of that, but you know, at the end of the day, you have to work and you have to earn money in order to sustain this lifestyle. And so being able to work remotely is key to that. I think a lot of people who transition into digital nomadism without really knowing how to work remotely have a difficult time, because it's very easy to get distracted by the shiny uh, meal or the shiny tourist attraction, or whatever it is that's going on in your environment that would normally pull you away from work. Um, yeah, it's easy to get caught up in that. It's like I call it like a muscle that you have to train. You have to train this muscle to like be able to work remotely properly before you can explore the fruits of digital nomadism.
Yeah, it's an interesting, it's a term that I'll be adding to the suite of things I talk about, right? When I'm talking about, well, this is, remote. Well, here's an avenue of remote that, that people are embracing, and it's very interesting. It's interesting you said it's a muscle you got to train, because, obviously, as you said, you have to have that income to be able to allow you to do those things that you want to do. And if you're not doing that, and I could see how if I was in Spain or I was somewhere, you'd be really oh, I want to go do that. I want to go do that. But it's that discipline of hunkering down and doing that work. So, and I like that you're educating people about that. You're not just throwing this out and saying, go disappear and do this. You're saying, well, digital nomad means this is what we're actually doing. My interesting question for you around that is, so what you're doing in terms of this, and you may not recognize that, but you are challenging the norm, right? So there are a lot of organizations out there that are now trying to make people come back to the bricks and mortar. They're creating these hybrid situations. I'm well set on this particular cast that I don't like the word hybrid. The minute you've got someone here and you've got someone who's not within the organization, then you're remote, and you should treat it as such, right? You're just remote from them and they're remote from you. However, the push is to try and get everybody back into the physical bricks and mortar. What you're doing is even more of a challenge against those bricks and mortar. Many organizations have invested over this period of time. There's a lot of real estate wrapped up that because of the push from COVID, that people are now struggling. How do you see that affecting what you're trying to do?
This is an interesting question. I think there's a few different kind of perspectives, or like different angles to look at it from. First, like from the perspective of the corporation, um, I don't know. I feel like from a company culture perspective, it's very telling. It's very telling when an organization decides that they want to pull people back, knowing that there's going to be resistance on it. like there must be some lever there for that. Maybe it's like you say, it's they're wrapped up in real estate investment, something like that. They need to be able to be seen to be utilizing all of the money that's wrapped up in whatever property or whatever lease it is that they have, stuff like that. Um, outside of that, I think it's really difficult to break into the mentality of the corporation. Um, but if I look at it from another perspective, which is the perspective of the individual, I kind of feel like you end up looking inwards a lot more if you're somebody who is in a position where you've worked in office forever, you've realized that you can work at your kitchen table, and then after that you've realized, wait, if I can work from this kitchen table, I can work from any kitchen table. Maybe that's on the other side of the planet. Fine, fantastic, great. um but I think what happens when there's like this line that's trying to pull you back to the office, or um to not even an office, like some companies are saying like, okay, no, we'll let you work from home, but you can't go anywhere else. You can't work from, we want you to work at home, not another city or another country, whatever. um I think the question then needs to be about like self-worth. You have to look at yourself and your skills and your abilities, and you kind of have to question whether or not you want to work for that company. When it comes down to it, like at the end of the day, all of the work that you do, you're basically trading brain power for fun tokens. Like they're just going to pay you money so you can do stuff in your life that you want to do, and you're going to trade for with them your time and your expertise. And fundamentally, you have to kind of say, is this a worthwhile exchange for me if the things that I want to go and do with my life are on the other side of the planet and you're stopping me from doing them? Because it doesn't matter how many fun tokens you exchange, they're still not going to let you go and do that thing. So I don't know. I think talent and like the talent marketplace will evolve over time and shift a lot based on this. Global mobility is a massive thing. It's becoming more and more important to people. Um, yeah, I think there's this kind of maybe again, it's like, am I in an echo chamber of my own here? I think there's potentially a move away from material possessions towards time, and like having the time to spend how you want to spend it with the people that you want to spend it with in the places where you want to spend it. And if that's important to people, good companies that recognize the importance of a strong team and good company culture, they will they will do everything they can to kind of bubble wrap that and protect it and enhance it even. um I don't really subscribe to this idea that hybrid is the way forward. I think that there's merit in it if people want to go and work in an office, because some people do. Nothing wrong with that, by the way, either. But I think that there has to be a line drawn between remote friendly and remote first. Because what happens in a hybrid scenario is three people go to the office and they're in a meeting with 10 people,
Yes.
or that even worse, they three people are in an office and the meeting is four people, and there's one person just or one person's big faces on the screen, and that person's not really in the room.
No.
And the company might say that they're remote friendly, but if they're not remote first, it doesn't work. There's some level of exclusion. So I think that the progression and the way forward out of that is better education on uh like systems organization and company organization and even training. Because the other argument that I hear for office or hybrid is people who are early in career, they learn through osmosis. They need to come in and be around people who are more experienced and have these soft skills that they can pick up. Maybe that's right. I'm not saying that's wrong. I don't think that people need to skip training and stuff like that. But I just don't think that we've figured out the best way to train them. Like that's a failure on the part of the organization if they can't effectively train their people. that should be where the focus is. It shouldn't be on bringing back to the office. It should be on training people effectively in remote environments. That's where we'll see companies being able to leverage talent and fly. Those companies will fly, I think.
Yeah, we're seeing that, and segue that's remote agility frameworks here to help you. I had to fire that one in there, but essentially, that's our thought on it is remote first, and understanding that asynchronous organisations are the future. In fact, I think in the next 10 years we'll look back and go, what were we doing physically sitting in an office doing those things that you were just talking about? Whereas the organizations that embrace this remote first, and I like that remote friendly versus remote first, I'm going to steal that a little bit from you. Right about that. I think that's a really, really poignant thought. The other one I like is fun tokens. I like that. That is true of what it is, isn't it? It's being able to have the fun tokens, but you can do what you want, but you're still actually functioning as a working human being. That brings me to, I think, the other question I really want to ask, because you've been doing this for some time and you obviously talk to people about this a lot. So if the people who are listening to this right now, what would be the top three things that you would say about how you actually get started? Because I think that's the thing would be daunting, even for myself, right? Just thinking about it, okay, all right, I'm keen to do this, but how do I get started without, losing my job, partner, all those sort of things? How do I get started?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I mean, I would kind of assume that if you're listening to this, you've already decided that uh, remote working is something that you want to do. Maybe you're even already working remotely. I would hope that that's the case anyway. And yeah, I think it's important to basically take baby steps. There's a hard line on this, which is just go and do it. Like stop asking questions, just go and do it. But I think that that can potentially leave people in a lot of hot water. So I think the softer approach is to assess like what the baby step is, and it'll be different for everybody, right? Let's look at some. If we look at some examples, right? Um, you work remotely. Let's say you're already working remotely, or you manage to convince your manager that this is something that they're happy with. Fine. Do not do this unless you're comfortable at home already. Like that's number one. Get comfortable at home. Once you can do it at home, it's a much easier path, I think. And I think the first step on that path is go somewhere that's familiar. So don't have the first place that you go and work remotely be somewhere that you've never been before. Go somewhere that you like. If you have a favorite destination for vacation, like go there, because you'll be less distracted by all of the shiny things there because you've been before and you're familiar with it. You'll also just have some familiarity around like the infrastructure there. Like the last thing that you want to do is get a flight to some place in the world that you've never been to and get there and realize like your devices are locked or your SIM card doesn't work there, and you can't get into your banking app to buy a SIM card that does work or whatever. Try and eliminate some of the unknowns for the first destination. And I would also say make it time zone like proximate. Don't go too far so you're not all over the place. I would say go for a short trip, like 1 month, and I would say don't work for the entire time. That's, I think, another killer one. Don't work for the entire time. So if you have like a week, if you want to take a week of vacation, book a 1 month trip and take the first week as vacation. Get yourself settled in, and then figure out some routines. Be deliberate about finding a routine in that time off. Say to yourself, okay, my nearest coffee shop is here. On my work day, it's going to look like this. Go to this coffee shop, get a coffee, get back, get online at this time, and so on. If you do it the other way, then you might struggle. You might struggle to be there entirely and never really have time off. And the reason this is also important is that if you have a bad experience the first time, it completely skews your whole view of the experience and the lifestyle, which then impacts like your opinion on remote work. You know, you're like, no, take me back to an office. Um, so yeah, try and make it as soft a landing as possible, and I'm sure that you'll have a great time.
So there's one other question I'll probably ask within that is the traveling time. So you obviously okay. So I'm in Costa Mui, but then I think I might go to Spain. There's an inherent traveling time that you have to factor into your working life. How do you manage, or what's the tips on manage that? Because I'd imagine if you're going to be doing this regularly, that you do start to eat up some of your fun tokens, if you like.
Yeah, you eat up a lot of fun tokens, and I think in terms of like time management, the best way to manage it in terms of time is to do basically block it out. So like maybe you spend the first 4 months of the year in South America, then you do 4 months in Europe, and then you do
Uh,
4 months in Asia. And you know, for example, like once you get to Europe, you don't really need to take another flight. You can mostly get around on trains or on buses. Um, and so there's a bit of fun tokens to be saved there. But it also means that like you're not ruining your body by doing like zigzag flights across the globe. Never mind the carbon footprint. Like there's a lot of ways to kind of optimize that stuff. And yeah, just kind of be I guess be sensible about it, be logical about it. I really try not to zigzag because it can be so destructive on your like mentally. It's
yeah.
so hard to log on and do work when you've done that. Um, and there was the question that you had.
Yeah, well, so it was literally that moving from different environments because it's gonna, it's gonna you only have so many leave days, and if
Yeah,
in here and I'm in Costa Rica, and then I want to go to Spain and I want to lift everything up and move it across to there, that to me you have to put some real good planning into that.
yeah. So the other aspect of it is length of stay. So this is part of the reason that I ended up slowing all the way down. Um, it's because you want to really explore a place, you know, really get to know a place. A lot of the places that I've visited, I really feel like I've lived there. You know, like I've you have that moment where the person in the coffee shop knows your order before you get to the counter, or you know they can tell you like where the best place is to get your favorite drink, because yeah, it's like this the stuff that makes you feel like you've really connected with a place, or certainly makes me feel that way. Those are the kind of experiences that you get when you stay longer. But the other benefit is you're not wasting you know a leave allowance on travel days. Yeah.
That's brilliant, brilliant. Look, we're very close to the end of our time now, Chris, and it's been fantastic to have you on. And I've learned some things out of this that I'll take away as well. What I would say is, how can people get in touch with you? How can they get into this lifestyle, get some advice on it, start using it? Where can they get that from you?
Sure, yeah. So I'm always blabbering away about all things digital nomad and kind of traveling remote work lifestyle. I'm always yapping away on LinkedIn, talking about this stuff. So I'll make sure you have a link for the description and all the rest of it. And then of course, if people want to dip their toes into this lifestyle, then I'd highly recommend a newsletter called Remote Base. You can sign up for that at remotebase.co. Again, I'll provide a link. And yeah, probably the other way to get me directly is to if you're a member and you subscribe to that newsletter, you can hit reply anytime, and all of those emails come directly back to me, and I respond to all of them. So yeah, I love hearing from members, and I hope that I hear from you if you join up.
Excellent. Look, it's been fantastic to have you on all the remote things today. Remember, if you're watching this, to like, subscribe, join the Remote AF community, remoteaf.co. We'll make sure we've got all those things in the show notes from Chris. Chris, it's been fantastic to have you on all the remote things today.
Pleasure, Tony. Thanks very much.